New York City, the city that never sleeps, the business capital of America. More money travels through Wall Street in one day than most people will see in a lifetime. A place that is known as the Mecca of business is also the center of dishonesty, cheating, and many other unethical ways of conducting business in the 21st century. So as a current business minor here at Eastern Nazarene College, I like to think that I have a little bit of interest in the business world. And one of the topics that keeps getting brought up in all of my classes, guess what? Business ethics. Now, I think everybody's heard about, the Enrons of the business world, the ones that like to ruin it for everybody else. But there's so much more that goes on. What if I told you guys that there's another way of doing business? And note, this is not a regular way that we do business here in the West, especially here in America. In this way of conducting business, we treat people like people, and we show grace and compassion. It's kind of weird to think about. Like, you look at all these major companies over here in America and the ways that they treat people, they treat their consumers, they treat the environment, they treat so many different things incorrectly. But if we take a look at Muslim business practices that have been around for almost 1,500 years, you would think that why we should have adopted this style a long time ago. And I'm talking Muslim business ethics. Muslim business ethics is a different way of the way that you treat an individual while conducting business is so much more personal and connected than in any other form of business. In this video, I'm going to tell you guys about three ways about how I believe the Muslims use their business ethics in a stronger way than we do. Now, the first major one that I'd like to talk about is interest. Now, as a college student who has loans, I know interest far too well. Yeah, far too well. I'm telling you, when you apply for credit cards or student loans or anything, like almost anything at this point, you're always going to have to be like, so what's the interest? However, the first way that the Muslims differentiate their business practices from ours here in America is no interest. And to demonstrate how I felt when I first heard about this, here's a quick video, inside of a video.
Hey, I'd like to take out a loan for this bag of chips.
Okay. Of course, that'll be $2.19 plus interest.
Interest? Interest?
Oh no!
Yeah.
Hi, I'd like to take out a loan for this bag of chips. That'll be $2.19 with no interest. No interest?
No interest?
Wow, isn't that such a great representation of what we would all be like if we didn't have to pay interest? Oh man. So of course, I can't throw these things out here for you guys if I don't have proof. So for that, we're gonna have to go to the sacred text. What? So we're gonna be reading from the Sahih International Version of the Quran, and we're gonna be going to 275. And yes, just a heads up, I will be reading this off script over there. Those who consume interest cannot stand on the day of resurrection, except as one who stands, who is being beaten by Satan into insanity. This is because they say trade is just like interest. But Allah has permitted trade and has forbidden interest. And of course, the rest of the verse goes on to say that if you continue to charge interest to your brothers, that you will have to answer to Allah. So after reading this part of the Quran, I think it just is a perfect example of how people should treat one another. A way that people use interest is out of lack of trust that the other person will pay them back, or as like a punishment towards other people for not paying them back in a certain amount of time. Now I know I'm coming from a college student who's like super in debt, but like if you think about it, like you're charging another person extra money because you got trust issues with your money. I think this is just a very good example of how we should treat one another with respect and compassion, mercy, grace, words like that, that if we're connected to Christianity and we continue to love on each other, even though, you know, we're going into business with each other. So this leads into my second point, which would be equity. So equity in a business standpoint is really the end of an equation, such as y equals mx plus b, or a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You have what your business is worth minus your liabilities and your debts. So the three men right down here wrote a book called How Ethical is Islamic Banking in the Light of the Islamic Law. And this is actually probably where I got the most of my my knowledge from when studying Islam and business ethics. The line that stuck out most to me can be found on page 59, which states, Islamic financial systems are based on equity, not debt. Wow, right? Now, the Islamic financial system, again, to requote that, is based on equity and not debt. This would mean that they don't care if you're not making any money right now. Islamic banks look over your business plan, over your goals financially. They don't look at how far you'll be in the red. It is a known fact that every business that's ever been started ever doesn't make profit. At least the first year, sometimes up to about 5 years. And a lot of banks here in America shut down these new companies all the time, these brand new ideas, because they don't see it making any money anytime soon. Now this is where Muslim banks differentiate themselves from us here in the West, and that's because they take a look at the positives that this business will do rather than the negatives. So rather than focusing on the lack of money that they'll be receiving, they're taking a look at what this business can do for society. And if these banks believe in these companies, then they're willing to overlook these debts in order to allow these new businesses to grow. You know, where I'm from back home, I live in a very touristy area, so it's very hard for new businesses to last a year, let alone 5 years. That's because a lot of banks around New England don't really believe in giving these people an opportunity to really show what they're made of. So if you look at what Islamic banking is doing, where they're allowing these new businesses to come in and giving them grace and a little bit of space to work with, you see all of these amazing things happening. And that actually, coincidentally enough, leads into my third point that I wanted to make, and that is business for the better good. I opened up this video by talking about Wall Street and talking about how the American system of business promotes very unethical ways of treating people or conducting business. Now, that's all different when you take a look at Islamic business ethical practices, that these businesses are doing things for the greater good rather than to make a quick buck. On the same exact page as my last quote that I gave you guys, the authors continued on to say that the business activity is ethical if it promotes the well-being of society. And that, I don't know, that's just a breath of fresh air for me, to be honest. How Eastern Nazarene College's business program differentiates itself from other business programs is by its promotion of ethics. We're taught here that we have to do things correctly and fairly. We're taught here that everything we do is for the glory of God, and that includes, but is not limited to, running your own business. And those are the same ethics that Islamic businesses use when conducting their business. I mean, take a look at America. Our government is even helping businesses be super unethical. This is evident in this week's episode of Patriot Act, featuring comedian Hassan Minhaj. So take a look at this clip from the most recent episode of Patriot Act. Crazy, right? Look how unethical our own government is being by supporting these businesses that are only hurting the earth. I believe that if we adopt more Islamic business practices here in America, we can not only promote better business to the next generation, but we can also save the planet, which is kind of weird to say, guys. These are the three things I wanted to highlight about Islamic business ethics that I think that if applied to our own system here in America would make our country a lot better place to conduct business. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. You know where to find me. I'll see you guys. What? 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 I'm making a movie! I got this, guys. Guys, I'm making a movie right now.
Yo, you trying to smash? Jesse, we're trying to smash, bro.
Give me like 15 minutes. Hey.
It was
You guys have... I'm making a movie right now. Yeah, you know what else is awkward? Trying to make a movie and everybody here...